Welcome back, Sagittarius. Let's have a look at your stars and what I see coming through for your zodiac sign in July. In classic stage, we are going to have a look at the 5 things that are coming up that we do need to be aware of in July. For those of you that haven't followed me and you don't know, this is the way we set this update out, is covering the 5 main key areas. Anything I feel we need to refer to, we do go into how these transits are going to affect you, and then into your romance house, your career, your wealth, your health, and more. Now, stay tuned. This is set to be a very interesting month. One of the first things I can say is last month we had Pluto ingress back into the house of Capricorn. If all of this feels jargon, don't stress. I will link it to each area of your life and what tips I feel are necessary for you. So yes, Pluto did move back into the house of Capricorn on the 11th last month, and it will really link to the first moon that we're having. So the first thing we are having in the 5 trends this month is the full moon in Capricorn on the 3rd of July. We also have the new moon in Cancer on the 17th of July. One thing I noticed last month is near our new moon in Gemini, it also did dip into the house of Cancer. How many of you actually noticed that? Thirdly, we do have Venus that is sitting in the current energy of Leo, will move into its retrograde by the 23rd of July. Stay tuned for tips in that location. The North Node also shifts. It is currently sitting in the house of Taurus for the North Node, and the South Node being Scorpio. I do really spiritually believe, especially after the previous eclipses we had over the last few months, that really this can be a key area that can have some spiritual changes. So we can have some intensity with that really rising, coming to the precipice of an end, and shifting into the house of Aries and Libra, which we will discuss further. Last but not least, we do have Chiron in Aries on the 23rd, same day as Venus going retrograde, really giving us an opportunity to reflect upon our confidence, our wellness, where we feel equipped, where we feel ill-equipped. And I do believe this is going to aid our North Node, here's hoping. Now, how will this full moon affect your zodiac sign? One thing, as mentioned, to be vigilant. It's quite a, how could I explain it? Capricorn can be quite a traditional sign, because we also do have Capricorn being the shadow sign of Cancer. We do have both of those situations going on this month. So it can feel like a you, me versus we. It also can be in a certain area of our chart. We definitely can have things to do with hierarchy, really coming up in the collective, and an ending point. Full moons are wrap-ups. They're tie-ups to a degree. For you, it links to your second house. So it could be a bill. It could be a wage increase, paying debt off, confidence, changes in what you're eating, and your values, definitely hierarchy as well. But financially also there can be a big change happening in that location, and a need for change, especially where it does come to house, home, family. Definitely you will find that there's some changes and shifts happening there. Separately, I can say, because Pluto is in retrograde in the house of Capricorn, they're definitely going to have some old situations coming up surrounding family, surrounding value systems, the give and take and the renegotiation of that inside life. But definitely your second house can have some surprises. We also can tend to find wherever Pluto is, especially when it does come to home, this being a moon, it can be needing to replace white goods. It might be that your style, especially with Venus going up, ready to go retrograde, it's almost like, okay, does this work for me? Does this not? But from an emotional point of view, there can be confidence situations coming up, and your communication style also can be quite direct and stern and frustrated. So give yourself a few days during that moon phase. Separately, with the shadow sign of Capricorn is Cancer. If you do, again, want to dive deeper into this, feel free. All information is directly below, or you can follow us via both YouTube or the website. This moon also being quite natal. We do tend to look in astrology as moon as Cancer. This can be the feminine archetype. In the old days, it used to be the masculine. It can be co-creative. It's a new beginning. There can be some anxiousness there. This can physically be for you, where you get your money. This can be other people's resources, what they give into connections. It can be to do with tax, debt, legacies, inheritances. There can be a brand new chapter. And again, eighth house can be actually something quite positive. It can be scratchies, lotteries. It could be deep revelations and old wounds coming to the surface, especially because it can relate really similar to Pluto. Separately, this can be where you're actually looking to live more sustainably. And it can be, okay, what directly can I depend on, especially in a sense of a Venus retrograde? What directly can I depend on? How can I look at this? But there can be some circumstances that do run quite deep. And I would particularly with these moons this year is to really be aware that they can be quite emotional. So giving yourself a little bit of time. Definitely, I do see there can be some more structure. If you were waiting on a contract to come through, that also can be the way it plays out. Now, for Venus, I did have the banners on the other videos, depending on where you're listening to this, be it it's a podcast style update you're listening to or a video via YouTube or the website. I did have the banner incorrect, so I had to upgrade it. Venus in Leo does move retrograde from the 23rd of July. It's going to remain in the house, and we'll get the shadow at the beginning of the month pretty much. A lot of us might have even felt this energy last month. So this can link to blasts from the past, reevaluation of value systems, marriages, contracts, partnerships. It can put a bit of a spanner in the works, but it's here for a given reason. So try to trust the process as it goes retrograde. Really to use this as a time of renegotiation, investigation, revisiting. It can be testing new styles of relating to each other. For you, this does link to your 9th house, which I'll go into in a minute. It will remain in its retrograde till the 4th of September. So it's not the longest transit on the planet, but it's long enough to cause a spanner. It will then continue to stay in the house of Leo until the 8th of October. Venus retrograde is not a great time to, how could I say, to get married, to sign on the dotted line, to delve into something and pour all your eggs into one basket. It's there to reevaluate the old, renegotiate the new, and it's trying things out. So it's not like I'm going to cut my hair off and then as Venus goes direct, I'm going to love it. More than likely, you're not going to. So your value systems are going to shift. You're going to be revisiting these things. So we need to both look at your Venus, and we did have a new moon last month, which was your Venus. Very Mercury in nature. Communication is going to be the key. And personal freedom as well. Your zodiac sign really is quite a vivacious vibration. It needs to have that fun. It needs to have that autonomy, and it can feel quite stagnant. But it's also going to have that intellectual stimulation as well. Spiritually for you, I do feel during this time, it's going to link to your 9th house. So this can be to do with growth, expansion, can be to do with subject relating to a sibling, marriages, can be litigation, divorces, potentially. Now, we will get into your romance house. This is a wide view of what you're going to be reassessing. You know, the future, your goals, your plans, your spiritual beliefs, your value systems, if they're on the right page with whom you're choosing to deal with. Some of you could also wish to go on a holiday. There can be even the style of relating to certain destinations, be it it's food, the flavor of the food you might go off, you might not be relating to anymore. Definitely, because the 9th house also can be such, but we will get into that further in the update. Now, the other thing is Mars is currently sitting in the house of Leo till the 10th of July. As it moves into Virgo on the 10th, what we will get is a very different vibration. Now, Mars is really at the moment wanting to move very quickly in a direction. However, because last month we had Saturn and Pisces move retrograde, there could have been a point where we felt very foggy, very like, which way do we go, unmotivated. I do particularly feel Mars as the vital force, especially because it is in the sun. So we're wanting to put our energy into where we're going in life. And it's with heart, it's with love, it's with passion. It also can inflame situations. So what they say, all is fair in love and war. Yeah, it's interesting because, Venus and Mars aren't quite going to link up. However, it is bringing interesting polarities to the mix. As it moves into the house of Virgo, that go gadget frequency and that power and that fixation that we're going to have, it's going to be moving into the house of Virgo. So it's like think first, act, not act and then think after. So it's going to be intellectual. For some, it can mean that it's quick-witted, it's quick thinking, it sees the reality, it takes the action. Others, it can be burnout, how things directly impact us. So how much do we have on our plate? As Aries and Chiron goes retrograde, also, it's going to be very logical orientated, but you need to be rational with it, okay? Frustration also can come up with it. Chiron and Aries as it goes retrograde, because the nodes are going to be linked into this, I think this is almost like a sister helping a sister out. This can be where we are needing to be more cautious and not zealous. There's a lot of Mars frequency going on. The South Node, just had its eclipse. Now it's going to be moving out of the South Node and the nodes are shifting. So it's Scorpio. We've also got Mars quite active, both in Venus, with Leo. So there is a lot of intention and desire to move forward. And we may feel we know where we're going. We may feel confident, but I do really feel as the nodes shift, this is going to give us the intellectualism, the self-understanding to help us reevaluate our confidence. Aries is quite an independent frequency. If we do have codependency or we are not naturally an independent thinker, an independent individual, very separate to the group, this can cause a bit of conflict for us. Aries and Chiron has been sitting here for a while, and Chiron generally doesn't spend as much time in each zodiac sign apart from Aries, and that's because it is linked at a collective level to the first house, the house of self. So when it's sitting in this position and it goes retrograde, we can have some radical revelations. It can be, this is where I'm feeling blocked. This is what is causing me to believe this thing. This is where I feel I am lacking and I need to enhance or maybe find a tool so that I can get out of my way. So I do feel this potentially could aid this situation for some of us. Pardon me. Now, with the North Node joining, I do particularly feel, and this is happening from the 12th, okay? This can be a challenging time because this goes retrograde on the 23rd. To deal with the frequency of the North Node, we're going to have to give it a little bit. As it goes retrograde, we can reflect. So it's personal. It's where can I show up in this area? Where can I be bold? For you, this links to your 5th house. Okay, you can be very fertile, I will say that. This can relate to romance, children, creativity, your own personal emotions, the things you do for fun. Although when I have had transits in the 5th house, I'll be perfectly honest, it did create creativity. So my mind was deeply creative. I had great ideas. Innovation also can come through with this. But the other thing is that it took a lot of time. There was a lot of frequency being put into it. For Libra, having that transit previously, in our zodiac sign, we did have Pisces really moving through. Not Pisces, which starts on 5th house regardless. There was a lot of work that I spiritually went through when I had that transit. And I did find, as I was doing such, it was taking a lot of frequency from me. So you can get depleted, especially because it's a Mars energy. So, knowing your limitations, but also knowing that some glass ceilings were meant to break. So you're going to have a lot of expansion in this area, definitely fertility, especially if there was creativity that you wanted to attract, suitors you wanted to attract. The North Node is there, but you're going to be looking outside the box and tapping into such. Now, let's have a look for you at what is coming up with your romance and how to best navigate it. Number one is that, over the last few months particularly, it might have been quite challenging and a couple of years back, we did have the North Node in Gemini, the South Node in Sagittarius, and you guys did learn a lot about your relationships. That new moon might have been an emotional point, be it you're single or couple, last month in Gemini. And especially because there were T-squares, there could have been some frustrations. Wherever the tension point is, it's generally showing us something is off or something needs addressing. And sometimes we feel equipped, sometimes we don't. It probably wasn't the greatest time, especially for those of you that have been following me. I really recommended giving it at least 3 days for the dust to settle before making any major decisions, even though a new chapter was coming. Now, as we are moving through July, that signature is still, there to a degree. We're moving into the first moon phase, which is about confidence, articulation, self-worth, self-esteem. The nodes will be shifting. Spiritually, I see you really looking at, are our values on the same page? Are we walking down the same path? For those of you that are single, this also can be a time that blasts from the past come back. Now, if you psychologically are merely clearing, it's okay for you emotionally to feel you're going backwards. It doesn't mean you are. You can be re-looking at old circumstances so that you're spiritually open to attract love back in. Okay? Is it a good time to start a new relationship? Generally, it's more to do with the past during a retrograde. It's not that you can't, it's that don't overcommit. So move into the slow and steady wins the race. Move into the investigation and doing relationships in a different format. If you are dealing with an old individual, it's also great. But what we're looking for is, has the situation evolved? Be it it's on your side, be it it's on theirs. This can be a time for those in relationships from here until October that if we feel something isn't sitting right, we may personally go into avoidance and denial, but inevitably the healing that will come through that, especially with Aries and Chiron moving retrograde, it's really going to help us from a confident point of view, from a psychological point of view. Look at, does this resonate? And as it does come direct, sometimes there can be a lag on effect, but if we did feel the connection to a degree was not on the same page, we then would have that mutual understanding or just complete closure to make that decision. I do feel this can be a time that a new chapter is coming in, a new way of relating, and that is for both singles and couples. I do think this is setting the tone, and I do feel a reworking of your life, both within your own power and with the individuals you attract into your life also are coming through. I do feel you're really wanting to have more fun. I do feel you're wanting to have more stability. And there can be old emotions really connecting into if there was any betrayals, if there was any cheating, especially as we do reach the new moon in Cancer. Separately, this also can be where we are wanting to dive deeper in connections. And again, there is fertility. So forewarned, forearmed, come through and feel free to join us online on YouTube. We are having a mind, body, soul session during the retrograde. I'm going to be checking in with the patrons to see how they're transitioning, looking at our chakras, giving that guided support so we can have that added 101. Separately, career, what do I see for you? I do particularly feel this can be a very bold time. I would be careful by mid-month. Mars is going to move into the house of Leo. Now, you also psychologically can be quite a quick thinker. You can also clean up shop quite effectively, and I do see that to be a positive thing. There is a possibility of criticalness. And so those of you that are running a business, I will be careful around that time. If you are restructuring and looking at the detail, this can be upgrading your website. The retrogrades are really going to aid you for this. Quality assurance, what's working, what's not, what's valued, what's not. How are we working together as a team? Be it you're in a business with another company, or running one, however that lands for you. I do feel some of you could be looking to upskill. Some of you also could be looking to how you are valued. There also could be an opportunity, depending on the industry you're working in, for advertising, marketing. Okay. I do feel you could be looking to the future at what is going to work where problems can come. And there can be some delays as well. I do feel some of you can be waiting for a big breakthrough. This could be upon a contract. There can be some slight delays, but definitely reassessing those things, reading the documentation. I would really be very careful this month for disputes at work. That can be with superiors, with co-workers. There can be some aggressive energy. And I definitely feel, from a creative point of view, you can have some radical ideas. I would keep your cards very close to your chest. I wouldn't share these ideas. I'd sit with them, because we can have individuals that want to take your sunshine. So just be careful of such. I do feel from a creative point of view, people can also value you a lot more, but be open to looking at things from a different perspective. Some of you can be training individuals. Others of you can also be going to a higher tier level of work. Your wealth house, this is big. I definitely see there's some big plans in the mix. There is the possibility come the end of the full moon in Capricorn that your income can start looking different. I would say for some of you, this can come through a pay rise. It may be that you're having to replace goods, so there can be some expenses there. Some of you may have already dealt with that last month. It could be that you're not requiring certain things and you're deciding to depart with them. Interestingly enough, this also can be because of Venus retrograde. The other thing I will say is it's going to be important to really be cautious with the protection of your goods. Venus retrograde, we can have thefts happening. It's about personal security with your wealth. It's about really taking a solid look at your budget between now and October 2023. I do particularly feel you will be working extremely hard and you'll have the vitality, and your negotiation skills can be quite intellectual. If you are looking for increases, I do feel on the up and up, the steps you take now, moving forward through 2023 is going to aid you with that. The ideas that you're having and where you put your money, some of you could be on the fence to do with travel, children. This could be for some of you, yes, I'll say separations, where you are going in life, be it you are wanting to have a house. Those of you that were having issues as well, to do with home zones and transitions, I do feel because Saturn and Neptune move retrograde, there's going to be reworking around that. So, wealth doesn't just have to be the financial side. It can be the emotional, psychological, physical side. Some of you could be saving for a house. Some of the pressure also can dissipate off for you to redirect that plan. But it is going to require work in that area. So whatever this is, you can be really revisiting this and going, okay, where in the mix do I stand? Does this resonate with me? Is the direction I'm going in correct? And what do I do from here? Lady Luck is there. I would say by mid-month, like I said, be careful. There can also be a desire to travel, play, pour money out. Some of you also may want to join a gym. We're going into health through this section. However, with the 9th house, if you are planning to travel, things could cost a little bit more than expected. So, really planning, really mapping, be it is education, it's travel, it's big plans that you have, really looking at it and reflecting. Now, as to your wellness, I will say a lot of confidence related situations can come up, and some of you can feel a little bit burnt out. I do particularly feel you're going to have to be careful because Jupiter currently is sitting in your 6th house. This can be your routine, eating on the run. You're definitely going to find over the next year, you're going to definitely have a sweet tooth. The North Node, I would say in the first 12 days, it can be a really trouble time for that. So be aware of such. And I definitely see some of you also could have headaches, okay? That's one thing I'm being shown. This also can be a time with Leo in the mix of Mars in the house where we can get burnt out quite a bit. We deem it in the spiritual community as heart chakra. And definitely if you do find that anything is off, definitely get it checked out. Tension and stress levels and how you deal with these circumstances. Jupiter's really good. But we were having some T-squares to Jupiter last month, and there are, I do believe, during our nodal transition. So be careful of the 12th. There can be some tension points for you. Other than that, give it a few days either side. And try to avoid, habits, overindulgence, pacifiers. You can use tourmaline to ground you. You can use citrine for confidence. I do spiritually feel, especially, a lot of you can be quite susceptible to energy. So really increasing your fluids. And to try to not take situations personal, definitely individuals from the past coming back and brand new chapters towards your confidence and your goals. I do feel many of you are going to be, I'm hearing the term sitting duck, but it feels that you're going to keep your cards close to your chest while you are assessing what you feel is going to be correct for your future individually. Enjoy the spiritual ride. Be aware that in a mind, body, soul energy, this is a time of great transition. Aries is a very Mars energy. A, we can say at a collective level, this can give us confidence. B, we can look at it as we can have some challenges deeming that it is linked to Mars, the planet of war. So if you are seeing things on social media, the news, that is causing anxiety, again, look back to history and the energy, allow it to flow through. There's always that support online for those of you that need it. And I will see you through this Venus retrograde with all our transits very soon. Take care, beautifuls. I wish you the very best. Good luck with your plans for the future, and I'll see you on the other side.